Hello, and thank you for joining us. This week was the primary election, and I want to thank everyone who voted, as well as our Board of Elections and their judges, poll workers, and volunteers. Before a winner can be declared in many of the contested races, there are tens of thousands of mail-in and provisional ballots to verify and count. As votes are counted, we are all going to have to be patient and await the final results. This year, over 115,000 mail-in ballots were requested, and as of Election Day, only 29,388 had been received. By law, the counting of those ballots does not begin until 2 days after the election and will likely take between 10 days and 2 weeks for final results. So we wait. But it's nature, and this is not a quick process. To stay up to date with the Board of Elections progress and voting results, please visit 777vote.org for more information. This week's COVID cases have gone up again. We continue to see our positive tests hover around the 250 cases per 100,000 people mark. The CDC uses cases per 100,000 people, along with hospital admissions and bed space, to determine the community level status. Montgomery County is considered to be medium, as it has been for several weeks. One reason our case count hasn't gone down is because of the BA.5 variant, which is also behind the nationwide rise in COVID cases. It accounts for more than 70% of all new cases across Montgomery County and America. Health experts say the BA.5 variant is highly contagious, and we're seeing it infect people who are fully vaccinated and boosted. Montgomery County Department of Health and Human Services leaders are worried that our community level status could go from medium to high if our hospitalizations continue to rise like they have for the last several weeks. The percent of staffed inpatient beds occupied by those patients who've tested positive for COVID is 9.4%, and the hospital admission rate is just above 8 per 100,000 people. If those figures rise above 10, we're going to risk going from medium to high, and that would trigger new recommendations from the CDC, including face mask use in all indoor public settings. Non-essential indoor activities may be in jeopardy if COVID continues to spread like this. The CDC in Montgomery County DHHS recommends the following to help protect you and slow the spread of COVID-19 in our community. First, stay up to date on COVID-19 vaccinations, including booster shots. Booster shots are the best way to minimize the risk of serious illness from COVID-19. CDC data shows that since January, people 50 years and older who were vaccinated but not boosted were 2 to 3 times more likely to be hospitalized from COVID-19 than those who were fully boosted. Wear a well-fitting mask around others if you have symptoms or have been exposed to someone with COVID. When on public transportation, as an additional precaution, protect yourself and others during visits to congregate indoor spaces with limited social distancing and ventilation. Get tested if you have symptoms or are exposed. Consider rapid or PCR testing after returning from travel or large gatherings. If you have a positive test result, let your recent close contacts know. And if you're at high risk for severe illness from COVID, wear a mask indoors in public settings now, and talk to your healthcare provider about antiviral treatments or monoclonal antibodies. I'm glad to see we'll have a new vaccine option soon from Gaithersburg-based Novavax. It just cleared the final hurdle this week for emergency use authorization. In the coming weeks, it will offer the first vaccine in the United States that uses a traditional virus-blocking technology. This pandemic is not over yet. We must continue to be vigilant, careful, and help keep our families, workplaces, and communities safe and healthy. I want to take a moment to update everybody on Supreme Court protests. Now that the protests continue outside the homes of Supreme Court justices, while I support protests and even getting arrested for a cause to make a point, there are limits to what you can do. Some demonstrators may want to cross that line to get arrested. There are easier ways to get arrested. Just ask for it. They've talked openly on social media about ways to push the envelope, like screaming curse words repeatedly through a bullhorn or speaker. No one needs that in their neighborhoods. You can express your grievances without screaming and using obscenities, particularly in a residential neighborhood where, ironically, many residents agree on why people are angry with the court. Our police have worked with protesters and told them what they will and what they won't tolerate, and that if they do cross the line, police will arrest them. Most demonstrators obey police commands to move along or quiet down if they're getting too loud or otherwise cross that line. Police will continue to be there to deal with any issues that arise. Earlier this week, police identified someone suspected of setting fire to 2 churches and vandalizing another Bethesda church earlier this month. Police say the case will be handled in juvenile court. They didn't name their suspect or any accomplices, but police don't believe there's any further threat of similar break-ins and arsons. All 3 churches along Old Georgetown Road were targeted overnight just ahead of Sunday services on July 10th. A spokesperson for the Archdiocese of Washington says a few pews were burned, books were shredded, and crosses were removed from the wall and thrown on the floor. At the 3rd church, headstones were also damaged. We're grateful for the work done by Montgomery County Fire and Rescue Squad and the Montgomery County Police Department in closing this case. Attacks on houses of worship in Montgomery County are completely unacceptable. The criminal activity that took place does not represent our values of inclusion and equality. A hateful incident against one of our community members impacts all of us. I'm excited to announce that the final draft of the Effective Law Enforcement for All, ELE4A, audit is nearly complete. It will soon be shared with the newly formed Police Accountability Board and key county leaders. The Montgomery County Police Department, Fraternal Order of Police, County Council, and other stakeholders have already seen the report. We've gotten good feedback from them, but by releasing the draft to the public, we're hoping to hear from those of you who have ideas as well. More than 70 recommendations are being made by ELE4A. They include new use of force recommendations for training officers, expanding county resources to offer mental health crisis calls, and changes to internal investigation processes. There are also guidelines for programs to reduce officer bias, improve cultural sensitivity, and to get the most out of body-worn cameras. Leaders of the study say it's important to take police officers from a warrior mindset to a guardian one. These changes and others are critical to earning public trust from the community. I find it hard to believe that we can simply come up with ideas that we think might work to improve policing without doing the research into what's actually happening within the department. I look forward to sharing this report with the public and hearing from you about the ideas in the days and weeks to come. Before national action, Montgomery County passed its own open housing law on July 20th, 1967, to commit to fair housing for all. That was almost 9 months before President Lyndon B. Johnson made the same promise with the Fair Housing Act. For 55 years, Montgomery County has kept its promise to develop outreach programs so families don't face discrimination. Our law protects everyone who buys or rents a home from discrimination because of their age, race, color, religion, or national origin, sex, disability, sexual orientation, source of income, gender identity, marital status, or familial status, and most recently, criminal history are also protected by fair housing laws. That's especially important in an area as diverse as ours. In our weekly media briefing, County Council President Gabe Albornoz and I presented a proclamation honoring the county's efforts and the work done by Jim Stowe in the Office of Human Rights to educate the public and enforce these laws. It takes a team effort, which is why we are grateful to all those who are involved in fair housing enforcement efforts and activities. In July, we celebrate Parks and Rec Month. Our recreational leaders have been busy this summer opening and maintaining pools, organizing camps, and arranging classes for kids, adults, and seniors. It's hard to imagine a summer without cooking classes, arts and crafts workshops, and dancers filling up our activity and community centers. We encourage you to visit our Recreation Department website for fun ways to be active, be creative, and be social over the summer and beyond. This week, we have twice as many reasons to celebrate because it's also Latino Conservation Week. Montgomery Park celebrates the 9th annual Latino Conservation Week with a series of events that include workshops and fun activities. On Saturday, a fiesta honoring Latino Conservation Week will take place in Wheaton Regional Park from 5 until 10 p.m. Free shuttles will be available on Saturday from the Wheaton Metro and the Glenmont Metro stations. Montgomery County is a more welcoming, stronger, vibrant, and resilient community because of our outstanding parks and recreation programs and services. Speaking of having fun outdoors, this weekend will be Montgomery County's annual Farm Tour and Harvest Sale. It's been 30 years since the very first event, and this is the first in-person tour and harvest sale since 2019. Despite its fast growth over the last few decades, Montgomery County remains rooted in its agricultural background. 1/3 of the county, or 93,000 acres, are designated as the agricultural reserve, More than 450 farms are still producing food or offer products even in the county with 1.1 million people. This year, 20 farms will open to the public on Saturday and Sunday. You can check out the interactive map right now on the Office of Agriculture website to learn more about the participating farms. If you missed out this weekend, we invite you to explore the self-guided adventures throughout the county, which include the Grape and Grain, Farms to Feast, and Revive the Sunday Drive Hour tours. Have a great week.